Okay, so happy week 10, everybody. Actually, I lost the agenda. Damn it. 1 second. Oh, found it. Okay, welcome everyone. Let's move on to our first item on the agenda. We have approval of the agenda.
I'm going to be adding a discussion item for USA election calendar at the end.
Okay. I was going to say, can we actually move the new business up after the contingency allocations, or right after the funding? All funding. Because I think if we're not at quorum, we can still proceed with everything except for action items, which I would say includes consent items, right, Josh?
Yes, that is correct. Just no formal votes
No formal votes, right?
until someone else joins.
Okay.
Zuleika, can you remind me what the TSR presentation is? Yeah, I'm so sorry, Laura. I forgot to add it to the agenda. What is the name of the presentation? YouTube Relations Transfer Study. Got it. Thank you.
Can we strike capital contingency, please?
Striking capital contingency.
Could I have TJF be spoken?
Got it. I'm going to change my officer report to written.
I don't know if you saw the chat, but can I strike
Yeah,
it? Cool, thank you.
And I'm gonna go ahead and strike bag and art too because Eden and Promise aren't here.
Okay. Can I get a motion soon? Oh, I don't know if you saw Laura's comment to change.
Yeah, I just saw Laura's.
Cool.
Cool.
I motion. Oh, also a written. I motion to approve the agenda.
I second.
Sachi motioned, Justin seconded. All in favor? Okay, by a unanimous vote of 9-0, the motion passes and the agenda is approved for the night. Approval of the minutes. Did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes last week? If so, a motion.
I motion to approve the minutes from March 2nd, 2021.
I second.
Awesome. Sachi motions, Jonathan seconds. All in favor? Okay. Awesome. By an 8-0 vote, the motion passes and the minutes are approved. Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't ask for abstentions. Let me go back. Who abstains? Okay, so sorry.
My vote was yes. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. By a 9-0 vote, the motion passes and the minutes are approved from last week. I'm so sorry. Okay, moving on to public comment. So public comment is an opportunity for folks from the public to be able to talk to council about issues that are pertinent to them. Please remember to use gender inclusive language, attack the idea, not the person. And remember that freedom of speech does not mean freedom from accountability. So if folks would like the public comment, please use the raise hand function and we will promote you as a panelist. At that point, you will also have to raise your hand too once you're promoted as a panelist because we probably will lose the queue. So if anyone would like to give public comment, also a reminder, please keep it at 2 minutes. Okay, starting with Prob. Go ahead, Prob.
Surprise, surprise. Hi guys. Rob here with your weekly dose of all things CalPIRG. As you guys know, I run your favorite CalPIRG chapter here at UCLA as the chapter chair. For those of you who don't know, CalPIRG is a statewide student org at 8 UCs. We're completely student run and student funded. We work on issues to actually advocate for students, like protecting the environment, supporting basic needs, and civic engagement. Since it is week 10, I just wanted to use this public comment to share some highlights from each of our campaigns from this past quarter with you. And I also wanted to ask you all to take an action for Double the Pell. I might be cutting it close on 2 minutes, but I'm gonna try to make it quick. So this quarter, more than 217 people got involved this quarter and 112 are currently active and working on our campaigns. We were running 4 campaigns, including our 100% Clean Energy by 2030 campaign, New Voters Project, End Oil Drilling, and affordable textbooks. And since we had so much people power, we made a lot of progress on each of our campaigns, which is pretty exciting. So our 100% Clean Energy by 2030 campaign is our statewide priority. And we're working to get the state of California to speed up their commitment to 100% clean energy from 2045 to 2030. And last week, we met with the governor's climate staffer during our annual lobby day. We collected 18,000 petitions statewide and 3,000 at UCLA. We brought all that support virtually to the Capitol and met with 70 legislators to actually lobby on climate policy. And then our New Voters Project is working to institutionalize voting on our campus to actually turn out the vote. We met with Vice Chancellor Monroe Gordon, and he agreed to help us to get the studentvote.org link in all campus emails. And that's going to help us get even more students get over voting obstacles for the next election. We're also running a campaign to end oil drilling, both by asking the governor to pass an executive order and also by working to pass Senate Bill 467, which would end oil drilling in California by 2027. We had a press conference last week with UCLA professors and the NRDC to educate the public about fracking and oil drilling impacts on people who live in Los Angeles. And then our Affordable Texas campaign also made some headway as well towards addressing the high cost of textbooks with the UC-wide open textbook grant program. We worked with UCSA to pass a resolution, which was really great because the regents we met with previously said this was exactly what they wanted to see. But then lastly, I did want to ask you guys to take an action for Double the Pell. So our national team joined the National Coalition for Doubling the Pell Grant, along with UCSA, and they asked us to get student leaders to sign on and support. So Pell Grants used to cover 75% of a 4-year degree, but that now only covers 28%. So we want Congress to double the maximum Pell Grant award and peg that max award to the rate of inflation. So to demonstrate to Congress the diverse coalition of young people and campus community members that support increasing Pell, we did start a sign-on letter for student leaders, which I'm going to drop in the chat right now. All right, if you guys could take a few seconds to fill that out and show your support as top UCLA student leaders, that would be so great and could do a lot to show Congress that support. But other than that, good luck on finals, keep your heads up, and don't forget to drink water. Have a good day.
Thanks, Prob. Love the reminder to drink water. Council, y'all know what to do. Arsh?
Thank you, Naomi. A very good evening to everyone. It's great to be back over here. My name is Arsh Gupta, and today I'm joining you all not on behalf of ASUCLA, but as the Internship Director for Office of the Internal Vice President, advocating my support for a resolution that's on the agenda for tonight, condemning anti-Asian sentiment anti-Asian American sentiment in California is exasperated by COVID-19. It's an unfortunate situation and reality that a lot of us have had to witness and be directly or indirectly impacted by, and circumstances that are going on right now. And the council has been a leading force in advocating against these issues and standing with the community. And I think the unified support is required really strongly in these times, and that calls on for people like us to stand in support with our peers and our communities that require the support and are impacted by the way things are turning out. And I just want to also point out that this resolution was drafted by and the idea proposed by the interns within the internship class for Office of the IVP, and myself and my colleagues are extremely proud of their the project and the work they've put in. So I highly encourage and look forward. I encourage the council to pass this resolution and look forward to that coming up and the discussions that follow. But thank you so much for the time. Hope you all have a great night ahead.
Thank you, Arsh. Okay, would anyone else like to give public comment? If not, we are concluding public comment at 7:13 p.m. Thanks, everyone. Okay, moving on to our contingency programming. David?
Hi, everyone. So this week we had a total amount requested of $5,826.52 and a total amount recommended of $3,755.93 to 7 non-USAC entities. Yeah, to 7 non-USAC entities. And if you guys actually go on the council sheet, I've written brief comments about each organization. So in case you guys want to take a look at that, it's there.
Sorry, I didn't raise my hand. I had a question about the Regent Scholar Society, the overnight stay program for 2 allocations. I don't know if you addressed that in your notes, but will that be in person?
No, that will not be in person. They listed in their application that it's going to be a virtual event, and they'll have like a virtual tour of the campus, and everything will be virtual. I've double checked.
Perfect.
I saw Zuleika's hand, but I wasn't sure if that was maybe the, oh, I saw. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Emotion, anyone?
Yeah, I motion to allocate $3,755.93 to 10, no, sorry, 8. Oh, 7? My bad. 7 non-USAC entities. I didn't see all of them.
I second.
Okay, Justin motion, Zuleika seconds. All in favor? Okay, by a unanimous vote of 9 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and the contingency allocations for this week are approved. Moving on to SFS.
Hi all, I'll let you look at the dog while I do this. This week for SFS, we have a total requested amount of $3,210.85 and a total recommended allocation of $3,210.85 to 1 CSC entity and 2 non-CSC entities.
Any opposition to the allocations? Sachi, do you have a question? Oh, okay, sorry. If there's no opposition, seeing as there's no opposition, the SFS allocations for this week are approved. Thanks, Jonathan, and thanks for the dog.
Mala says thanks.
Awesome. Okay, moving on to TGIF.
Yes, hello everyone. So I'll add details to a written report later, but just wanted to update everyone on the Student Support Fund. We received essentially 147 applications for individual students, and we were able to fund 146 students, and we're pending on the 147th. So basically, everyone that applied to the support fund, pending answers to certain questions, will receive funding for $300 each for a total of $43,800 of allocation from TJF's monies. The funds will be dispersed in line with the timeline that TJF presented earlier this quarter, but just wanted to let everyone know how that project is going and update the public too.
Thank you, Sachi. Does anybody have any questions about that? That's awesome. Okay. If not, then we'll move on into our new business. We have the IVP bylaw changes.
Hello, hello. Let me go ahead and share screen. All right, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Miss Cassandra Gattaca, my lovely Assistant Internal Vice President, who scoured the bylaws and noted the things that we should change that don't align with current practice or are better for the future. So these are all the bylaw changes that I am presenting tonight. And I'll go through them one by one. And I think we have to vote on them one by one. Is that correct? Or is that just with the constitutional amendment?
Just the Constitution. Or Patty, go ahead.
Oh, Patty?
You can choose either way. If there's consensus that you're happy with all the adjustments, you can vote all in one change for this one document, or if you'd like, you can go one by one if needed.
Okay, cool. So the first one is just a language change. Everywhere else in the bylaws, internal vice president is spelled out except for this one place. And so for consistency, we wanted to just quickly change that and make it consistent in style and formatting with the rest of the bylaws. The next one is adding the Campus Safety Alliance vice chair as a consent item appointment. I think this is something that we did this year, and it's been great for accountability and things like that, and making sure that council knows who is running the standing body and is able to kind of review their qualifications as a council. The third is striking the duty of the IVP to update and publicize the nomination form for the USAC Faculty, Staff, and Administrator Recognition Award, seeing as I don't believe that this is a currently functioning award. And this is what CRC believe too, but if folks have feedback about that, happy to take it. The next one is just, again, updating the current bylaw that says the IVP is going to appoint the campus safety director and they will just automatically become the vice chair. Changing that to make sure that the vice chair of CSA is a consent item appointment. Again, the next one also has to do with CSA and vice chair things. We are changing it to make sure that the vice chair of CSA is the one who is responsible for hiring alongside the IVP and organizing committee. The next one is striking, again, this is something I'm willing to take feedback on, but I do not think that the student group outreach committee is currently functioning, and I don't know how long it's been since this has functioned, and I'm not sure if it is completely necessary, as outreach and student organizations and student group things are already like in the IVP's bylaws, and they're a part of our, like an outreach committee is already part of our office. But happy to take feedback on that. It includes CAC, CSB, SWC, and TSR, as well as finance committee chair. So next one is, again, striking the things having to do with the faculty, staff, and administrator recognition award, as I'm not sure when it has, like, whether this award is functioning anymore. And then the last one, I think for me is the most important one. It is codifying, well, first of all, it is saying that items received after the deadline will not be included on the agenda that is published, but may be added during the approval of the agenda process on the day of the meeting. This is in line with our current council practices, just wanted to make sure it was codified in the bylaws. And then the last one, and I think one of the most important ones, is that it codifies the public posting of the agenda and the agenda package, as well as all items of business to the public by 7 p.m. 2 school days prior to the meeting at which the items will be considered. So previously, it was only required that the agenda and all items of business be publicized to council members, but practice had us posting the agenda at 7 p.m., but not all the items of business. So I think this is an important bylaw in terms of making sure that we're transparent and making sure that we include all student voices that want to weigh in on the items of business that we are talking about at council. And that is all. Happy to take questions, comments, concerns.
They look like good bylaw changes to me. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I did want to ask, I know it has also been standard practice that the IVP will sometimes place items on the agenda after the submission date by discretion. I don't know if there's like a need to codify that too. Sometimes there are urgent things that come up that are like students are made aware on Sunday, or we add it on the agenda on Sunday, but it still gives students the time to see that it's on the agenda and to mobilize if need be. So I'm thinking through that too. Zuleika?
I was gonna say, Naomi, you brought up a really good point. I'm wondering if we can also put like a little discretion on the agenda that says that it's subject to change on the day of council, because we do amend sometimes, and I think we should be transparent on that.
Yeah, that's what I meant in terms of like items received after the deadline will not be included on the agenda, but may be added during the approval of the agenda process on the day of the meeting. Should we? So the thing is, speaking to Dr. Geller in the past, I think we've tried to stray away from adding agenda items in between the publishing of the agenda and the actual meeting. I've kind of stuck to waiting until the day and approving the agenda and adding the amendments of the agenda during the day, especially with action items, which have to be voted on if they're going to be added that day.
I think the important thing to keep in mind is that any action items you add after the agenda is first released, you'll still need to take that vote on because they weren't there. If something is just a discussion and it goes up after the agenda is initially published, it's better than not doing it, because people will at least have some awareness. And if it's a topic they want to come and participate in public comment, they'll know it's there. And you could add the discussion component of things you want to make action items, but you hold off until the meeting starts and you take the vote to add the action indication if it wasn't there when the agenda was first released.
Okay, so do you recommend that maybe I change the language to say that maybe added, I don't know, any suggestions in terms of language?
My recommendation would be something indicating that action items will only be added to the agenda after it's released where there is a time-sensitive pressure. You use the best words for how you would say that.
Yeah, I would say that kind of gets at my concern because I definitely agree that, if possible, we shouldn't be adding like action items, but I know that discussion items often come and then there's usually action taken like the next week. But yeah, thinking through that. I don't know what the
Okay.
wording is though, Emily. I wish I was more helpful in that regard.
I'm adding a line right now for the internal vice president's discussion item submitted after 5 p.m. may be added to the agenda before the day of the meeting. How does that look?
I don't have any objections. Does anybody else? And if y'all want to see, she's like typing it live too on the doc. Y'all can.
This is I'm gonna send in the chat what the entire clause would look like. Oops, that is not to everyone. There.
If folks agree or like the language or don't like it, we can always motion.
I personally feel like that gets at it, the concern of like, and just making it very clear, like there is the ability to, because that's really the issue of like making it clear enough in advance, or if it comes like the day of, there's like the mechanism for like, oh, we're approving it publicly. Like it was brought to us publicly, and then we're approving it and adding it to the agenda as an action item.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that makes sense as far as like my understanding of it. So
Yeah, I like that too
Yeah.
because it allows like over the weekend, it allows for students to reach out to us and ask us for discussion, for us to discuss it, and they can provide public comment for the discussion as well. So I like that.
For sure. Yeah, and other than that, I think the rest of them also just, like Emily said, codify things that are already practiced, so they don't seem like too much change. Not that we're opposed to big changes. But. A motion, somebody?
I motion to approve the IVP bylaw changes.
I second.
Awesome. Emily motions, Sachi seconds. All in favor? Please raise your hands. Oh, I realized I didn't get CRC's opinion, but since it's a unanimous vote, we'll just go with that anyways. By a 9-0 vote, the motion passes and the bylaw changes are approved. Okay, moving on to our next two items, we'll go into the resolution. Go ahead, Emily.
Okay, let me, if it's okay, I have invited the interns who wrote this resolution's first draft to join and present the resolution. So let me go ahead and promote them to panelists. Great. But yeah, just really quickly, as Arsh mentioned, the interns in my office this quarter were asked to write a resolution that spoke to an issue that was important to them. And these interns decided to write about anti-Asian sentiment in California, which is exacerbated by COVID-19. I have the support of the Vietnamese Student Union, the Asian Pacific Coalition, and all of its Board of Representatives members on this resolution. So thank you to VSU and APC for your support. And I will pass it over to the interns. Go ahead, y'all.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for having us. I'm Shannon Courtney, and I am joined with Clarence Tran, Jenny Lee, and Ashley Oshiba. And as Emily said, we're here to discuss the resolution condemning anti-Asian American sentiment in California that has been exacerbated by COVID-19.
Yeah, so first off, we'd like to quickly summarize some of our research. We all know that there has been an increased amount of Asian American discrimination. And so in our resolution, we wanted to emphasize some of the more significant occurrences of this discrimination, such as some of President Trump's remarks, as well as provide some statistics. We also wanted to emphasize that these discriminations do indeed extend to the Asian American university students.
So we exclusively decided to focus on this topic because there's been a renewal of racial discrimination during the pandemic, where Asians were targeted for being the primary cause of COVID-19 during this 2020 to 2021 year. But this discrimination wasn't only due to the pandemic, but was also hidden under other current news and events. And we rather thought that it was COVID-19 that allowed us and the American public to kind of reintroduce these discriminatory actions. And now with violent attacks towards innocent and vulnerable Asian American populations, there's been a large outrage from the public, which is evidently seen in various social media platforms.
We also specifically decided to address the issue in the United States and UCLA because America is well known for housing a diverse population, including Asians, and throughout many years of moral trial and error, it's pretty unbelievable to see the existence of Asian discrimination prominent even in the 21st century. And even closer to home, the Asian American population make up a large part of California, and particularly UCLA. And because UCLA is a school that represents a large number of Asian American students, we thought it was crucial that not only the voices of Asian Americans at UCLA was heard, but that racial discrimination as a whole be condemned at all levels.
Yeah, and transitioning to the resolution, we seek for USAC to support community-led safety efforts and affirm that these efforts towards protecting Asian American communities should not call for increased policing nor weaponizing anti-Blackness, and to call on UCLA to advocate on behalf of particularly Asian students on campus to promote inclusion and address discrimination. And in tandem with that, we seek for USAC to join other student orgs in condemning hateful acts of violence against marginalized communities. And lastly, we hope that USAC will ultimately reaffirm support for Asian Americans and ask the other UCLA entities to do the same.
Awesome, y'all. Thank you so much for presenting and for all your hard work on this resolution. We'd love to open up to council for any comments, questions. Zuleika?
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much for your work on this. I think it's amazing that interns are getting this opportunity to write a resolution that is so important and that it's something that you are all very passionate about. And I just really appreciate the work that you put into this, and I am in complete support of the resolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zuleika. Sachi?
Yeah, I also want to second what Zuleika said. Thank you for bringing up such an important issue to the council table, but also shout out to all of you and the rest of your team for putting this together. It's hard to write a resolution, so it's really cool that you all did this and did it on something so important, with such important language. So thank you.
Thank you. Breeze, I saw your hand earlier. Do you still want to speak?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say it's amazing that you guys are getting involved and doing this amazing work. I love it when like interns, like to mobilize and do this amazing work. And thank you, Emily, for, through your leadership with your directors and whatnot, guiding these young students into, well, young students. Well, you get what I'm saying, right? Guiding them and teaching them kind of how to go about this. This is really great work. I'm proud of you all.
Thank you. Yes, shout out to Arsh, Angus, and Brianna. Really, really hardworking internship directors who have molded these interns into being able to do all this work. Alrighty, any last comments? If not, I will move to approve the resolution condemning anti-Asian American sentiment in California exacerbated by COVID-19.
I second.
I also forgot about move. All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Oh, me too. Yay, with a unanimous 9-0 vote. The motion, it passes and the resolution is approved. Congratulations to all the interns for all your hard work on this and for a unanimous passing of this resolution through council. Yay. Okay, moving on to my second resolution of the night. I will be presenting this one. And Sachi and Justin, if you all want to jump in, feel free. I'm going to share screen. So essentially what this resolution is in support of is funding for the UCLA Worker Justice Center. And so this would be a permanent home for the UCLA Labor Center. And also the fact that it would be named after Reverend James Lawson, who is a civil rights icon, social justice icon. He has taught in the labor studies department for a while. He teaches on nonviolence and social movements. And a couple years ago, he was a recipient of the UCLA Medal. Y'all can read the details here, but I just wanted to say for me, the UCLA Labor Studies Department and the Labor Studies and the Labor Center has been a really crucial part of my education here, which is why I really want to support this project to ask for state funding to make sure that they have a permanent home and are able to renovate and make it into a community space. Justin.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak a little bit on it. I mean, I think it, I just want to reaffirm also, yeah, for me and my experience, you know, working with labor studies professors has been kind of my best experience, like at UCLA, and kind of feeling at home in that department, and all of that. And also, I just want to also call attention to the like really amazing work that the Labor Center does as being like a basis in the Los Angeles area and has been for a long time for like community oriented research and research for actual actionable like purpose and campaigns and union organizing, and research really be putting into practice as far as like organizing for people's rights in the workplace. So, and the Labor Center has always done a great job. I know Emily and I are, all right now working with the Labor Center and specifically the project on workers and learners. And I think, yeah, they just have a long track record of that, and they're known throughout Los Angeles. Like you go to any union, like, and they're like, yeah, Labor Center, like, they've either worked with them in the past or like, know about them. So I think really grounds and like shows their effect and like place in the community and their importance. So yeah.
Thanks, Justin. Sachi?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, from my perspective when it comes to facilities, surprise, surprise. But I, as Emily was saying, I think that, all of us might be in support of community space and we're typically focused on the UCLA campus. But when it comes to UCLA as a land grant institution, it's important to remember the contributions that UCLA should have and that it does have through spaces such as the Labor Center to its community that it is, embedded within. So I'm fully in support of this. I'm generally in support of the UC in California at large, spending more money on capital infrastructure projects, but particularly here, given what Justin and Emily have shared about the contributions of the department and also of the center. I'm just fully in support from that perspective.
Thank you, Sachi. And I wanted to say one last thing that I forgot to say when I was speaking my piece. The UCLA Labor Center actually published like the first study on the nail salon industry and the labor conditions within the nail salon industry. And that's really, really close to my heart because, as you all know, I am proudly Vietnamese, proudly Southeast Asian, and Vietnamese folks occupy a huge proportion of the nail salon industry, and a lot of the labor violations that were spoken about in the report are things that my own family members have gone through. And so it's very grounding and like affirming for me to see that like studied in, you know, such an institution as like UCLA.
Awesome. Also, just reaffirming everything that's been said tonight. But a motion will allow us to proceed.
I move to approve a resolution. Oh, wrong one. A resolution to support $15 million in California state legislature funding for the UCLA Lawson Worker Justice Center.
Second.
Awesome. Emily motions, Justin seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, by a unanimous vote of 9-0, the motion passes and a resolution to support $15 million in the California State Legislature funding for the UCLA Lawson Worker Justice Center has been approved.
All right, I have one last comment. The purpose of passing this resolution is to sign our names onto a short letter in support of this ask. I just wanted to tell folks and make sure they were okay with it. The letter doesn't say anything different than what's already in the resolution.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Okay. Now moving on to actually, I think I might give my officer report right now just in case I don't have time to give it, but I'll make it really quick. I just wanted to say Zuleika and I have been meeting with the Housing Prioritization Task Force, and we've been talking about housing prioritization for the upcoming year and what those needs look like. We're, of course, weighing first-year transfers, first-year freshmen or first-year students in general, second-year returning students, and then also third-year students who will at that point have only had 2 quarters worth of housing and who are also probably facing and likely facing issues of like trying to find affordable and accessible housing. So weighing through all of those options and we'll report back when we have anything concrete, but we're for sure just in the planning stages, preliminary stages of those conversations. Sachi, I wasn't sure if that was a hand.
Yeah, I can ask now or ask later. I was just, sorry. Is that okay to ask?
How about
Or do
I just like quickly finish and then we'll come back to the question. And of course, as I've noted before, I'm sitting on the Campus Safety Symposium Planning Committee and really trying to, of course, push forward our agenda as students and making sure that abolitionist and defunding perspectives are presented at that ordeal. Also, we've been continuing our conversations for the SOUs and really trying to come to resolutions there, or at least things that are sustainable for the near future. I'm trying to see if there's anything big that I wanted to mention. I'm trying to go high level. Of course, we're preparing for a judicial board case and making sure that we make it clear to everyone that we are, trying to adhere to university policy, to UCOP policy, and also to the local and state policies that have been implemented. Other than that, I can't really think of, or I won't go in depth for anything else, but I'll turn it over to you, Sachi, for that question that you had.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, when you all are in these housing prioritization discussions, if the only like level or like, I guess, grouping of students is going to be by grade level / like how many quarters of housing they've had, or are there other priority considerations?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very valid question, and I do want to reemphasize that there are, of course, other prioritizations or levels that are being considered. I'm not sure how much I can say or how much I can discuss, just because those conversations have been, we tried to keep them confidential, or the committee wants them to remain confidential because it's a really like sensitive subject. But of course, as you all know, students who have needed housing this year, whether those be former foster youth, our Bruin Guardian scholars, and other students who have needed housing because they don't have any other safe housing, have been prioritized, and that will continue to happen. We are like still thinking through students who are who also have additional financial needs. And we're also thinking through, of course, our disabled student population, or just students who will need accommodations at large. And that's for sure on the table. But I won't go like too far deep because I don't want to be misquoted anywhere or anything. I hope that answers, Sachi. And we can talk offline if there's additional concerns. Okay. So moving on to our next item on the agenda, we'll go. Emily, is it okay if we move the election discussion at the end, towards the end?
I thought I just did that.
Oh, okay, sorry. We'll go to
Yeah.
the Regent Relations Transfer Study.
Could we please upgrade Matthew Soldano and Celine Trong to the panelists, please?
Yep.
Awesome. I will share my screen. Oh my God, I suck at technology. Hello, and thank you, Council, and all the attendees for giving us your attention this evening. My name is Laura, and I am the Director of Regent Relations in the Transfer Student Representative's Office. This committee was set up in December 2020 to create a foundation for transfer advocacy at the UC Regent level. I am joined here tonight by our data analyst, Celine Trong, and investigative analyst, Matt Soldano. We are proud to show you a preliminary analysis of our work over the past 3 months. Tonight, we will be discussing our study on UCLA transfer engagement. During our research phase, we realized that there was no transfer-specific data relating to the UC experience. It's almost as if administrative bodies believe that your transfer status leaves you when you make it to a UC. This was concerning to us because the transfer community is made up of very diverse and intersectional identities, and these identities influence our experiences in different ways than direct entry students. If the UC policy-making bodies are treating all students as one monolith and not understanding or recognizing the different needs of transfer students, how can we be sure that we are getting a fair experience at the UC? This study serves as a tool for the UC Regents. With better understanding of transfer issues, we believe they will make more informed decisions and in turn create a better environment for transfer success.
So our preliminary research highlights the diverse identities of transfer students. Our respondents come from 31 majors and 27 minors, including STEM, the humanities, and social sciences. Our initial data also represents first-generation students, students with disabilities, undocumented students, houseless students, and students who are struggling with food insecurity. Our survey was designed to cover a broad range of topics. These topics include feelings of belonging and identity, academics and social aspects, Some of our questions include, do you feel like your transfers are accommodating to transfer-related issues? And do you feel like being a transfer negatively impacts or has impacted your social experience at UCLA? More specifically, we also asked about perceived accessibility of information, including research opportunities. Our preliminary results are staggering. On belonging, 90.1% of respondents have experienced feeling like they don't belong at UCLA. One student stated, I feel that being a transfer negatively impacts my ability to fully socially integrate. On social interactions, 66.2% of respondents feel that being a transfer has negatively impacted their social experiences at UCLA. Many respondents talked about how they felt a disconnect with direct entry students, especially, and felt the negative stigma surrounding community college. On professors, half of respondents felt like their professors were not accommodating to transfer-related issues. These can include switching from the semester to quarter system and not having experience or understanding of TAs or the grading system. Respondents felt that many professors lacked understanding of the transfer experience, and one even stated that they felt that professors can sometimes be purposefully unaccommodating to transfer students. Respondents also reported feeling uninformed about important resources that UCLA offers. 66.2% feel like UCLA does not highlight research opportunities effectively to transfers. Respondents mentioned feeling like they have little to no guidance. Our research also uncovered that upon enrollment, over 60% of respondents did not understand what a research university even was. 88.7% of respondents have personally felt imposter syndrome. 68.1% experienced deep confusion after orientation, and 67.4% reported feeling overwhelmed in class.
Sorry about that, new to technology. So going off of what the staggering data that Celine uncovered, we took it a step further than just gathering quantitative data about the transfer experience. We have also been interviewing, recording, and transcribing students' personal experiences. All of the students we have interviewed thus far have reported feeling as though they are disconnected to the Bruin family and feel as though their transfer status is a barrier to both social and academic opportunities. We are continuing to gather data, both quantitatively and qualitatively. However, our preliminary results suggest strong trends. One of those trends is that the transfer experience is shared among most students, regardless of major socioeconomic status and other identities. Transfers are facing similar challenges. Additionally, our research suggests that students are severely lacking the necessary resources for their successes. This lack of information has caused students to miss out on a vast amount of opportunities, and this exacerbates feelings of not belonging. On a more positive note, our research confirms that the transfer community is strong and resilient. We help each other to succeed, and we are our own biggest cheerleaders. If only the administration were as supportive as the transfer community, who knows how far transfer students' success could go. So what's next for us? Our survey is still live. So if you are a transfer student, please pull out your mobile device and use this QR code or type the link that's in this slide into your browser and participate in our survey.
Our next phase is UC-wide distribution in the spring. We have partnered with UCSA's Transfer Coalition and are working with transfer leaders across the University of California so we can learn about transfer experiences from Berkeley to San Diego. Upon completion of our research, we will analyze the data to confirm if transfer issues stop at the campus level or if they show a systematic trend. We will then create recommendations and an action plan based on that analysis to share with the UC Regents during their May meetings. Thank you guys so much for your time and willingness to learn about transfer issues. We are open for any questions or comments.
Awesome. Does anybody have any comments or questions off the bat? I first just want to say thank you for all the data that you provided and all the work that went into this presentation. I'm sure it was a lot. And I think that it's at the end of the day, we are a research one university. The UC is a research institution. We should be producing research on all of our students and just data as a whole on all of our students to better improve their experiences. So thanks for this. Any other comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I am so proud of everybody on this team. This was a new project in our office. Sitting on UCSA, I realized that there is only one transfer, like specific transfer voice on there, and they're so limited on the amount of advocacy that they can do on transfers. And attending regent conversations, there's this assumption that transfers are fine, and that's not true. Especially post-transfer at the four-year institution level. So we took a chance and we created this committee, and I'm so happy that Laura is leading it, because Laura, you're doing an amazing job, and thank you so much to the staff. Like, data collection is tough, and you are doing great, and I just love all the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
All right, thank you so much, Zuleika, your office, thank you, Laura, and your team for an amazing presentation. Definitely clap emojis. Okay, so we can go ahead and move on, and feel free to stick around if you want. Don't be pressured, but yeah, if you want to know what counts is like. Okay, cool. So we can move on to the next special presentation, which is the USAC Seat at the Table initiative, and I believe Amir and Joy are here to speak about their organization. And sorry, Amir, is it? Oh, there we go. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Joy's here. Joy, do you have the presentation up, or? Oh,
Yeah, I can get the presentation up.
cool. Thank you. So hello everybody. So I'm Amir. I'm a fourth year cognitive science student. Pronouns he, him, his. I'm the president of DKA. And then I'm here with Joy, who is one of the HR chairs. Do you want to introduce yourself, Joy?
Yeah, like Amir said, I am a HR chair for DKA. I am also a third year cognitive science major. Very happy to be here.
So we're a professional all gender cinematic arts fraternity. We're national. First chapter started at USC in like the 1930s. So we have chapters pretty much everywhere now. So if you could go on to the next slide. Our mission is to foster lifelong character, collaborative and creative storytelling, ethical and productive business practices, philanthropic action, and fraternal bonds by and between students of the cinematic arts. So that's just our national mission statement. What does this mean to us? So we want to create a system for creatives and future filmmakers, foster collaborative learning environment through short films, practice shoots, screenwriter circles, and industry workshops. And we also have an extensive alumni network that connects members to jobs. Additionally, and this is the point that we're kind of focusing on a lot more now, we're educating members on responsible filmmaking practices. So this has a heavy emphasis on moral and ethical considerations, issues of representation, diversity, inclusion in the industry, and activism in response to these issues. So we can expand upon that a little bit more as we go through our presentation. So we're talking specifically today about the HR initiative that has developed over the past couple of years. We kind of noted that it fell into 4 phases. At first, when I first joined the fraternity in 2017, I noticed that there were a lot of individual sort of responses to discriminatory behavior in voting for pledges, in casting and recruitment. And most of this was very implicit. It wasn't, very directly noticeable, I guess. So these were moments that members didn't necessarily feel comfortable coming forward in any capacity, because it's kind of hard to sort of operationalize like what is implicit bias, what is, unconscious, behavior like that. So when reports first started coming out, we took a survey on the state of the chapter. And at this point, we publicly recognized that this was a problem. So we moved into the response phase in fall of 2019. We started the Conversations for the Good of the Chapter program, which we'll expand upon a little more detail after that. We have stricter recruitment guidelines. So this is specifically in terms of how we discuss pledges and the adjectives that we use to discuss potential new members. We updated pledge curriculum and increased focus on diversity inclusion in industry workshops, and we increased transparency in between e-council and chapter members. Then we saw the reaction to this, which was interesting, and some were somewhat unexpected. Overwhelmingly, we saw a lot of support from especially newer members of the fraternity as pledge classes continue to diversify. There was also a lot of confusion from the part of senior members who were kind of, confused about the necessity of changes to this policy, because we're a film fraternity. We're primarily a majority female. We're relatively diverse, historically very queer. So it's kind of unthinkable to some of these older members that maybe there's a problem. And so in the end, more conservative membership either dropped or graduated, and we were able to continue on with our initiative, but we still notice a lot of microaggressive behavior and unhelpful performative behavior that we're now kind of in the revision phase of trying to really pinpoint what exact behaviors we want to focus on with our active members. So Joy will take it away and talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so expanding on where we're at with the HR initiative today, these are some of the goals that we are hoping to achieve upon developing the executive position further for future DK members to come. Firstly, we are hoping on expanding on what Amir mentioned, the Conversations for the Good of the Chapter program, to include education alongside discussion. Conversations for the Good of the Chapter arose out of acknowledgement of these issues with implicit racism that Amir mentioned through our Rush and Pledge program. We noticed that BIPOC rushies and pledges were treated, or held, I should say, to a much more strict and intense level than some white rushes and pledges. And so our first Conversation for the Good of the Chapter addressed the discrimination recruitment. And while that was kind of being a issue tackled from e-council through policy changes and structural changes to the pledge program, we also addressed issues pertaining to members and their own concerns about the state of affairs of the world. So that included the lack of BIPOC representation in the entertainment industry and a discussion of what exactly is like positive representation and negative representation, and how not all forms of representation of minorities are helpful. And also, as we discussed, this was implemented towards the end of last winter, and as we all have experienced and have in-depth familiarity with the pandemic, one of our members brought the discussion of
increased stigma against Asian students to the table as well. And as we have moved online and a lot of us have been struggling with isolation and everything, we've also brought discussions of mental health awareness regarding like members being in isolation and how to kind of reconcile the lives that we lead for school online and also the lives that we lead in person in our like wherever we may end up. Beyond that, that was like the main crux of our program. Beyond that, we also hope to improve relationship between general members and e-council through greater transparency of fraternity operations. And so that's a new program that we've implemented where during general meetings, we have 5 minutes of HR space where members are free to bring up their own issues regarding fraternity operations, such as how the brush program is doing and how we are tackling the production of a Zoom film that we are going on and how we are making sure to center BIPOC representation and voices through that. And then also performing a more internal re-examining of existing structures within DK and updating them in accordance to new values, like Amir said, with revamping the pledge and brush program. And so this continues on into our plans for the future, where we hope to expand on more long-term change regarding the HR program. So we're hoping to continue focus on equitable recruitment practices and making sure that we codify these changes that we have seen positive reactions to in the chapter bylaws so we can have more long-term effects on our members, and then also continued development of HR duties to expand on oversight of conversations for the good of the chapter, as well as trying to support member wellness through internal relations and community building. And then also trying to expand the reach of DK to the campus community in general. We recently did a small partnership with the CACN American Chinese Association Cultural Night production to help them with their transition into an online production as a kind of consulting position on the film that they're trying to produce. So. As for what USAC can do to help us with that, the HR position, very new. This is the first year that we did it, and it was very hard for me and my co-chair to kind of build this from the ground up. And I'm also in the facilities commission, shout out Sashi, as their graphics director, and I attended an anti-Blackness training through that, and I found that very helpful to help diversify my perspective. So I think if USAC offered something more like that for other organizations, it would help promote these types of leadership and the emphasis on diversity and inclusion within student organizations themselves in places other than just student politics or wherever there may be problems, and create a more preventative measures. And then also assisting with facilitation of collaboration between organizations. As we mentioned, we did a partnership with CACN, and it would be very helpful to expand our own perspectives by meeting other groups, cultural groups, and working with them to learn about their stories in a way that maybe we can assist them and create mutually beneficial relationships and programs. And EAF already organizes all of the student registered organizations. And so through some sort of programming like that, that kind of unifies all of these separate communities at UCLA, hopefully something more like broader community can be created.
So we just have some thoughts to end with that kind of we've learned over this journey, I guess. First off, education and entertainment specifically informs our cultural norms and associations. And these are almost always driven by the relevant hegemonies in our society. And so these directly impact society's behavior towards marginalized groups. That even includes minority individuals behavior towards themselves, especially when we've grown up in a situation or an environment where we didn't really see a lot of people like ourselves, or didn't have like a diverse range of perspectives. So we need to understand that like this is pervasive, and that there is scientific evidence for all of these points. It's just kind of disappointing, I guess, to Joy and I that we study cognitive science at UCLA. We learn that, you know, these are scientific facts, that implicit associations are based in you know, education and entertainment, are based in our exposure to specific people. And so, and we know that this has a direct harmful influence on minority groups. So in the end, and I'm sure most of you agree with this, but doing nothing about explicit or implicit bias amongst the student population, this has a direct harm to minorities. And you know, go to UCLA, it's a relatively diverse school here. So UCLA, we believe, needs to proactively address discrimination amongst their student body. It's just, yeah, it's disappointing to see a lot of things go unspoken about, unaddressed. Implicit racism, misogyny, homophobia, toxic masculinity, explicit transphobia, these are all overlooked or undermined by the administration, in our opinion. For example, trans erasure has a direct harmful physical and emotional impact on trans and non-binary individuals. Yet we still have, you know, organizations like Bruin Republicans who are putting on their platform, you know, transphobic remarks, and that speech, you know, to us, to the student body, feels like it's almost being funded by our own tuition, because registered campus organizations are getting financial support from the school. So if you could go on to the next slide, I think we have a few more points.
Nope, this is the last slide.
Oh, really? Cool.
So we
so yeah.
can take any questions for those who have them. Hopefully this has been informative and inspiring.
Yeah, thank you so much. I also just wanted to say, like, I really, really appreciated this presentation, as well as all of y'all's hard work and labor in making sure, you know, these initiatives happened within your organization. I think it's super, super important. And this is a really great, I guess, example or model, I think, that other orgs can follow who like maybe feel like they need to be doing these initiatives but are not sure how. So thank you. Appreciate it a lot. And Bree?
Yeah, hello. I just wanted to second Emily. I really enjoyed this presentation. First of all, I didn't know theater flats were a thing, so that's really cool. But I think also just to, you know, find out that all this work is being done, especially when we need like more BIPOC representation in the field. I just really like that you guys are centering your advocacy work around this and, you know, really pushing forth this initiative because, you know, the industry does need it. And, you know, I imagine a lot of the folks at UCLA are really on set to like be in these career tracks. So it's really good that you guys are pushing that within your org to begin with. So thank you guys for that.
Sachi?
Yeah, I second everything that everyone has said. But also wanted to speak specifically to like what can USAC do to support. I know, Joy, you mentioned that you like, you know, through our office, my office, you had access to the anti-Blackness training, which I believe Aiden was able to set up for us through UCSA. And so I think it's a good start to the conversation to talk about, you know, how can on a broader scale USAC support organizations who are looking to do the kind of work that you all are doing. But on the flip side of that, I also think that you all are just like a really great example for other organizations. And I think, you know, I'll talk to you later, but maybe if there are other orgs that are coming to us looking for similar things or even thinking about, the spaces that I'm in, I would love to sort of borrow from your journey, because I think that the intentionality and the thought that you've put into this is like really important, and I think a really good way to kind of support other organizations who are interested in doing this kind of work. So thank you.
Totally. Yeah, I could speak on, I guess, what USAC could really help. I guess we kind of realize that, you know, a lot of other organizations are much less diverse than we are. A lot of organizations don't have people or have people who might be passionate about leading an initiative like this, but don't necessarily feel like they have the initiative or the resources to continue this initiative. And also speaking to other active members in retrospect who have been here for a little bit, they have told me that they didn't know where to turn necessarily when they noticed that sort of implicitly discriminatory behaviors were happening. And so, I think that as students, we would feel a little bit more comfortable if we knew that there was at least like a publicly available office run by people who either are recent graduates in the social sciences in the social sciences, or are current students who are willing to step in and audit an organization to see sort of what their practices are, to like step in and help provide the training that a lot of people we know want, but don't necessarily know how to get. I'm not as familiar with exactly what USAC's capabilities are, but like we would 100% support all these pushes that are happening, as well as the redirecting of funds to this diversity inclusion initiative.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add really quickly, like obviously an entire office is a very big ask, and something that may not be achievable in the immediate future. However, maybe even just as a start, publicly disseminating the information that USAC has, because it has been a very good place for individuals to start learning about these types of things, because it is centered in so many different offices through their advocacy and their missions, would at least be a good resource. Because at least for Will and I, Will being a white man who grew up in the Bay Area, and me being a Asian American woman who grew up in Hawaii, which is a very like homogenous culture to say the least, had trouble trying to speak on, or at least do research concerning these types of social justice issues. So at least offering a place for people to begin their research would, if anything, help launch these types of initiatives in places where they may be able to flourish.
That's really great. And I just wanted to offer, I do have a committee in my office that works on, trying to make work with student orgs to be the best that they can be. So I'm gonna actually drop their email in the chat. And if you all want to reach out to them to possibly talk about a collaboration or to ask for these kinds of resources and like kind of share what your organization has been through, I think that would be really great. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you both. Really, really appreciated this presentation again, and really appreciate your time and coming here tonight.
Totally. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
Pop emojis everywhere. Cool. So that concludes our special presentations for the night. So we'll move on to officer reports. Naomi already did hers. I'm going to do written. So I think the next up would be Breeze, academic affairs.
Thank you, Emily. So not too much for me. We did have our decolonization of the mind event today. That went really well. Our books for Bruins for this quarter, all of our UCLA gift cards should be sent out by Friday, hopefully. And okay, so for UGC meetings, I guess I'll just go quickly into that. We had the same discussions that we had pass no pass was extended again. The same academic policies that we have are going to be extended for next quarter. The notation was allowed to kind of like outline that because of the COVID pandemic, I guess like the same, little blurb that everyone has on their transcripts will be also included for this upcoming quarter. We also, at our UGC meeting, more specifically, we talked about bringing in universal broadcasting and how academic senate can help in that sense for next year, if students choose to stay home. And although we cannot mandate it, there's going to be a strong push for it, and we as student reps on that committee will be pushing for that. Social data science minor was passed, and I guess like one of the issues that was brought up that we're kind of interested in is because we never really talked about UCPD there, but they wanted to review policies on UCPD and make a recommendation in terms of how UCPD interacts with students that live in on-campus housing. And there was a policy brought forth, and then they brought up bringing in UCPD to give like their expertise, which, thankfully myself and like the other reps kind of rebutted and said, okay, well, if you're going to bring in UCPD, those are not necessarily the experts. So we connected them, or like told them about $1 Million Hoods. Yeah. And they promised that they would be connecting with folks from there. So hopefully I'll have an update at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bree. Okay, going through the list, I don't think anyone else has requested a certain officer report. So it looks like we are on to administrative representatives. Jessica?
No updates from me, but I don't know if Fernando will want to give an update on some USAC website stuff we were chatting about. So I'll let him give you all those updates. Thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. George?
No updates on my part.
Thank you. Dr. Geller?
No updates.
Thank you. Josh?
No updates for me. Good luck with finals, everybody, and enjoy your next 2 weeks off. Don't show up, right, Emily? We're not meeting next week or
We
finals
are
week
not meeting next
or
week,
spring break.
nor during
Enjoy
spring
your
break.
time.
Yes. Fernando?
We can't hear you,
Are other
Fernando. I think
people
you're
hearing
muted.
Fernando? Yeah.
Yeah, you're good now.
We can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you, Fernando. Oh. Yeah, I think we can return. Yeah, maybe I can put it forward as a discussion item in our next meeting, and then we can decide then. Okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, awesome. I will make sure to add it into my notes to have it as have those two as discussion items. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Fernando. All right, and then last but not least, Patty.
Sorry, no updates.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, with that, we can go ahead and move on to the last new business item, which is the USA election calendar. I know Alfred is here to take it away.
Yes, perfect. This is going to be a pretty short presentation because it's just a logistical change. But yeah, like I'm going to get my screen shared. Okay, so I've made a few changes to the election calendar. The only change that the first change that I made is I had to shift the candidate debates to like 28 and 29 instead of 27 to 28 because I was not able to get a webinar for 27 because that is USAC meeting. So I don't want to do a candidate debate on a USAC meeting time, and I'm sure that and I wasn't able to get the webinar, so I moved it back to 28, 29, and I pushed back the endorsement slips deadline to 2 a.m. on the 30th instead of 8 p.m. on the 29th because I wanted to give some organizations enough time to fill out the endorsement slips after the candidate debates. And finally, the last change that I added to this was here in April 1st, slate filing deadline, just to be clear about when the slates have to file. And that is by the end of the day of the candidate orientation meeting. But that's all of the changes that I have. Is there any questions? Yes, Emily.
Yeah, just one question. What is the difference between slate registration and slate filing?
Emily, you're a little bit unclear.
So sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, better.
What's the difference between slate filing and slate registration, just for clarity?
Yeah, so slate registration is when you officially register the slate as an entity to compete in the elections. So that is that only has to do with registration, the name, what just for record keeping. But slate filing is the form of the document of intent of your slate to run candidates for this election. So when you do the registration, it doesn't mean that you have already signaled which candidates you're going to run. But for the slate filing form, you're going to be indicating which candidates that you're going to be running under your name.
Very awesome. Thank you, Alfred.
You're welcome. Are there any questions? Perfect. I think that, yeah, like then that's all that I have. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, sorry.
Yes?
I do have one last question. On the 30th, it says, does it say 2 a.m. endorsements supposed to?
Yeah.
Is that on purpose?
Yeah, because initially the
Oh.
endorsements just were here on an 8 p.m., but then I wanted to give them enough time, the student organizations after the candidate debates, to fill out the endorsement slips. But I also didn't want to delay it too much because voting is already beginning here. So they'll probably get their endorsement slips around the Saturday here, but that's why I made it at 2 a.m.
Okay, thanks, Alfred.
Okay. You're welcome, Emily. Is there anything else? Perfect. Then thank you all for listening to me, and I hope you have a wonderful week 10 and a finals week. Please don't stress yourself out too much with finals.
Thank you, Alfred. All right. That looks like it's the end of our agenda. So I will adjourn this meeting at 8:32 p.m.
The recording
Wow.
has stopped.
Is this our fastest meeting of all time? Okay. I'm going to promote the attendees just in case